basically every technique I can get my hands on. And in today's world, we have access to so much. And some of the stuff was around before I was born, and some of it after, and of course, things are being made now. So it's good, almost a humbling experience constantly to know that all these new tools are coming out that we can use and doing things that we've never even made before, and you only get certain ideas because you have access to certain things. So right here, I'm selecting an example print for my 3D printer that I just got, and I got the Ultimaker 2, and the reason I got it is because um, as far as a consumer printer goes, I wanted to get something that wasn't too big, just because of uh, some of the bigger printers. It just wouldn't be good for the setup I have. I have more computers than I have, like, other types of hardware, and I live in Japan, so typically it is a typical place. It's not like the biggest house on the planet, and just trying to be neat and things like that. So I wanted something that was pretty compact and wasn't going to take up too much space, but also wasn't too loud. And that was very important. And also, I did do my research maybe a year before and looked at um, uh, the extruder type 3D printers, and it came down to this one. It's speed, it's the quiet, the materials that it can print. And nowadays, a lot of them do print in the same material, but so that's not really that big of a deal. Here I'm explaining how one thing that sets the Ultimaker 2 apart is that the mechanism that pushes the filament is actually on the back of the machine, and it's not sitting on the extruder head, so it makes it lighter and it can move across the surface a lot faster. But I just wanted to explain that in the beginning before I got really into it, because you're going to see me just printing out an example, and I'm really learning as I go along, because I've never actually gotten my hands on a 3D printer before. I've seen them. I saw them like many years ago, but it was before they were available to all of us. So let's get to it. And um, my channel isn't all about 3D printers. It's about everything. And I'm an artist. I do science. I do a little bit of everything. And if you have access to this stuff, hey, why not use it? And again, I'm making an example print, but you're going to see me making things every now and then that are original, because I do 3D modeling, so I don't have to depend on other people's work to do my own. All right, there we go. Let's get to it. We started printing. Although, I've done a few, and it started off fine, and then when it got sort of a quarter of the way, it detached from the plate, and it basically picked up what it had printed and was dragging it across the plate, which you don't want. You want everything to stay in one place. Let's see if that's good. I'm not sure that's a good angle. You know what I might do? I might build something to where you can, you can film it, like a mount, like film it at its best, almost like a camera rig type thing, like a studio setup. But it looks good. You can kind of tell when it drags across the surface, that initial bead that it does. It looks good. I sprayed a crap ton of hairspray on this, and a few coats. Not as much as what somebody suggested, because I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I will. But we'll see what happens. It was very tacky before the plate heated up, but then it didn't. I could hardly detect the tackiness once it heated up, because of course there's a state change of the hairspray. But you know what? I guess how that interacts with the ABS plastic is something that is important to that. So it doesn't matter if I can't really feel it with my fingers, as long as there's a nice little chemical reaction with the material, so that it sticks to the plate. That's all I really care about. So, whatever. This is going to take about 44 minutes. It would take less, like maybe a half hour or something like that. But I'm printing at 90% of the maximum speed, and I did that just so that this little print, even though it's very small, just so it'll look good because it is small. So I'm going to let that do its thing, and then come back to it. I had to come back real quick. I mean, I feel good about this, but I've seen it get this far, and then it suddenly detaches. But then again, I wasn't using the hairspray coating on my glass build plate. I was concerned, or I am concerned, because I heated my build plate up to 110 degrees Celsius, and I'm just going to say 110 because I think the United States, we're the only ones, even though I'm not in the United States, I'm in freaking Japan, but the United States is the only country that's using them empirical units. So, screw it. You know what I'm saying. And if you do 3D printing, it's all going to be in freaking metric anyway. So, whatever. So, anyway, I have the build plate at 110 degrees Celsius, and I was doing that because it wasn't working for me, so I thought that if I upped the temperature, the stuff would be more likely to hold to the plate. But that wasn't working. And so I'm thinking maybe I could have just kept it at the standard 92 degrees or something, whatever it was. But for right now, it's almost past where it's been doing before it actually just goes to crap. Where you're like, oh, it looks good. Because it does look good. It actually looks kind of smooth. Looks very crispy. I'm going to get in a little closer. Sorry about that. This thing is doing its thing. I'd most likely generally be filming this with another camera, but I'm just doing it with my iPhone, so whatever. Yeah, I think it actually has. Yeah, it's pretty much past the point where it messed up. So I say, if it's going to mess up, you should do it right about now. Jinx it, jinx it. Yeah, looking good so far. Yeah, it's looking good. I guess I could kind of tell when I was looking at the bead, the initial bead that it made, the consistency of it, how it kind of, it was a consistent line across the surface. Because before, I don't know, it just didn't lay down the same. But this looks good. And I did try to print one of my own files that I made, but I'm going to try that again. I'm not sure if I sealed up everything. They call it, like, when you print 3D prints, you have to make it non-manifold. Basically, make it so that your print doesn't have any holes in it, because if it does, that'll pretty much, turn your stuff into a honeycomb visibly, and it will just kind of fall apart. It'll be very bad, It's okay to be hollow, but like on the surface that you can see, you don't want there to be holes in it, because it could literally just, like, not be good and fall apart. So yeah, it looks like it's starting to do the little grippy hands, the claws. Actually, I did get up to this point before. Really? My battery's running low? Anyway. Yeah, so we will see. I'm going to come back to this guy. I'm going to see what's up. Right now we're at 39 minutes left. Again, I'm printing at 90% of its maximum speed on purpose, so that it doesn't look crappy or as crappy. It's going to be a little print, but whatever. This is just a test. And this is being printed in ABS plastic. I don't want to do what do they call it?
PLA because it's a structural thing I'm concerned with, and because PLA is organic, it's going to start breaking down after a time, and I don't want that. I basically need the kind of stuff that, that's not good for the environment, because it'll be stronger. You know what I mean? You know, this will outlast us. Something that'll stick in a landfill for 500 years. Yeah, and ABS is actually, the fumes are bad. PLA is it's almost like cooking oil or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not really it's like vegetable based or something like that. So it's I think people say it smells like French fries. I haven't used it yet, but people say sometimes it smells like French fries when you're using it. ABS, well, yeah. And trust me, I know about heating up my toys. When I used to play my Star Wars toys, heating up action figures. Yeah, it smells like plastic. It is probably, it's about halfway done. So there's no way that's going to detach from the build plate, because if it was going to happen, it would have happened already, and it was happening when, for me, when it was like a quarter of the way, just like clockwork. But the hairspray technique works. Yeah, works very well. Yeah, I'm very happy with this. Again, this is at 90% speed, so it's not going to be crazy detailed, but I noticed a little stringy things on the bottom of its chest plate, but whatever. And you can see the support structures on its side. Those are for the little clampy type hands, claw hands, so you can remove that material. One thing I want to do is get another extruder, so do the dual extrusion, which I was never interested in until I started doing my research, because the material that you need on some prints to support your 3D print so it doesn't droop before it's cooled off as it's printing, you can have water-soluble support material. So when this thing is through printing, you literally just put the thing in water, and the material that was used to, like scaffolding when it was being built, just starts to disconnect from the print. And that's awesome, because otherwise what happens is, when you have to remove the support material, you stand a chance at damaging your, what you do want. And I do like the idea that, it's kind of like stitches that dissolve. That's awesome. I don't care about multiple colors. It doesn't mean anything to me. I actually like the idea of painting it myself. And if I was going to do multiple colors, I would want millions of colors, not two. So screw that, man. Give it a few years. I mean, where it'll be affordable, because you can do that, but you're not going to get the major quality from something that prints in like thousands of colors or even hundreds from this kind of printer. You would have to use the kind that uses the the powder, and then it's fused together with the resin, or maybe the laser 3D printers. But that's cool. And for what I'm going to use this for, I don't really care about multiple colors. White or gray plastic is fine for me, because I can color it on the computer. All right. I'm going to come back to this when it's done. It is 2 minutes till completion. Or actually, just changed to 1 minute. According to this thing. 1 minute left. Printing the example robot that comes on the SD card. That's almost done. There's very little distortion at the bottom, which is probably like the most important thing, because if that starts peeling, it's just going to affect the whole thing, because it won't be totally level. I mean, I figure that's probably almost as bad as having a non-level build platform. Although, depending on what you're doing, it may not look that bad. Like if it's a person, because you know we're not perfectly symmetrical. So, but yeah. I mean, it came out pretty decent. I printed out 90% of the speed, just so it wouldn't be too crappy. According to the display, I have about 35 seconds left, and then it'll be done. We're getting closer. Sorry about that. It's almost done. We're just doing the little nobbins at the top. One thing I really wanted to see, I wanted to see how it did the chest, because that's just some, it's not that raised, but it's some little details in the chest. I wanted to see how it got that. It's not too bad. I mean, this print isn't good enough for what I would use it for, you know, if it was mine. So, this is finished printing. My build plate is in the process of cooling off, and I'm actually going to let it cool off before trying to remove it, because I've heard stories about when you use hairspray to affix, you know, to make it so that your material will better stay on the plate. If it's hot, you can actually it's actually possible to take off the glass with the with the material. So I am not in that much of a hurry. So, which is good. It's a good practice, because this is just some crappy little print I decided to test with this. Yeah. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be making my stuff suitable for this printer. You know what I mean? This type of printing, FDM, what is it, fused deposition material, whatever, you know, extruders, they can't do everything, and not everything that they do actually looks good. You know, it just doesn't. So, you know, you can't expect a certain level of quality from these things. I mean, for some people it might be acceptable, but for me it's not. So, because I do props and stuff, and that's pretty much why I bought this. But I know exactly how much I can get away with, to where if it's on film, you won't be able to tell. So, you know, things with a lot of thin projections coming out of them, bad idea on this kind of printer. It won't look all that good. So, you know, I'm going to do things that lend themselves to looking their best on this printer. Basically, you know, making things made for the medium. You know, don't try to do something to where it'll look bad. And actually, the fact that it's printed 3D is actually irrelevant to me. I'm doing it because I'm like, hey, it saves me time. I get what I want. I don't have to kit bash, which is awesome. You know, like everything that you'll see will be on purpose. You know what I mean? So I'll detail it to death in 3D in my 3D software. And I'll get exactly what I want. So, yeah, let's just zoom in here while it's on the build platform. So, yeah, you can see. But, I mean, this actually looks good from a distance. You know, so, like, if you zoom back a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, that looks kind of cool. You know. Of course, you get up close. You know. And for some people, like, no, it looks awesome. I'm like, it can be better. And this is printed at like normal settings, so it wasn't printed at like the highest settings. But most of the time, I'm going to be printing at like the highest setting there is. So it may take, you know, a week to print out something, but for me, it's worth it. You know. And when people see the results, you'll just, like I said, the way I'm going to do it, you're not going to be able to tell it's 3D printed. It's actually irrelevant because that, I don't know, it's like that's like a gimmick now. It's like, dude, 3D printing isn't new. It's just, you know, because some patents expired, people were able to get access to how to make these things, and then there you go. They're consumer affordable, but I remember these things when I was a kid, and 3D scanners, you know, like friends and companies, you know, that I knew had these things. They just weren't for your average person. So, you know, they've been around. I mean, I think they might have been around in the '60s, but definitely in the '70s. You know, so yeah. And there's different kinds, but yeah, I'm happy because I see the potential. So that is awesome. I don't know if they added detail to the back. Let's see. I'm gonna get a. See if there's detail in the back. Yeah, there's some stuff. Just the business end. That discoloration is from when. Sorry about that. Is from when my previous attempts when I was printing, and it basically just failed. The ABS plastic had caked up on my nozzle, and then it burned. So that's just residue. But yeah, I like the potential. Now I can get back to work on my stuff. I just wanted to get this up and running. This is why I didn't want to make one myself, because I have other crap I have to do, and I didn't want to be trying to figure out if my problems were because I made the thing wrong, my model, the software. Here it is. You're just going to get in close. Now, see, okay, so this is a test print. This is like one of the models that comes with it. Sorry about that. Which I'm sure everybody's seen. These guys happen to even use for their logo. It's like the universal symbol for 3D printing, just like, you know, Wi-Fi has that symbol. But this was at I'm not sure exactly what settings. I know that like the speed at which you print will definitely affect the quality, and I did this at 90% speed. But this is the final result. That discoloration right there has to do with when I did a previous print and it wasn't sticking to the build plate, so it actually the extruder actually. The nozzle actually grabbed the model ended up sticking to the extruder, and it dragged it along because I didn't have good cohesion or adhesion to the build plate, and then of course the ABS plastic, the molten plastic, ended up just burning on the head. Almost like caramelizing or something like that. So that's actually stuff that came off the actual print head. Yeah, it just burned ABS. Whatever. I mean, this is what I expect from a really quick print. It's no big deal. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my stuff for 3D printing. This type of 3D printing, FDM, you know. But even though you don't want to get up close with this because that actually looks really bad, from a reasonable distance, even, you know, it hasn't been finished or anything. I didn't go in with my Dremel and clean it up. There was some support material that connected the claws on the side, but I just broke that off. I didn't really try. Let's get even a little bit further away. From about... How long is it? That's about 11 inches away. 10, 11 inches. It doesn't look that bad. And since I'm using this as props, I'm basically doing what you might expect in, say, a theater setting. You know how somewhere between like theater and film, where you can get away with, or I might say television, you can get away with a certain amount. It reads well from far away. You just don't want to get up close. Like if you look at thespians, when you're performing live on stage, your facial expressions have to be exaggerated and everything, so it reads from far away. And also that would also make sense with makeup and things like that. But it's all about the gestures, and so I'm going to take advantage of that too. That from far away and on film, just the medium puts a almost like a haze over it, so things look different. They look neater, tighter. So just don't get too close, and it's fine. That's your movie magic going on. Yeah, because it doesn't look bad if you get far away. Just don't get too close. But you can't expect, for many of these consumer ones, it's not going to be like major perfection or something like that. But, you can finish it. And that's about finishing it. But even if you did try to sand this down and things like that, this particular print, it'll look better, but it's still not going to be perfect just because just the detail isn't there. Yeah, it wasn't printed at the highest settings, but I am happy with it in that the potential, and knowing that from this point on I can model with the idea that many of my 3D models that I make will be printed. Just consider that, because like when I draw from the days of before we had desktop publishing and things like that, when graphic design was called commercial art, when we would draw, we would say, okay, you have to draw it so that it'll look good when it's reduced, because whatever it is you're drawing is going to be reduced when it's printed in a newspaper or magazine or whatever. So you really had to be careful with your blacks and how close lines were together, because if they were too close together, then it would just come out really bad when it was printed in paper form. So I still draw like that. I always imagine, whatever it is I'm drawing or painting or whatever, how will it look in print? I always design for that. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to design a lot of my, not everything, but a lot of my 3D work with the expectation that it will be 3D printed. And in my case, that's not going to be a bad thing. My models are going to be a little neater, a lot less straight polygons, like stuff that I can get away with. But you can't have what do they call it, manifold stuff going on in 3D prints. Basically, everything. This thing has to be like watertight, and it has to be non-manifold. So, and this is the example. So I, figured it would be the free model that they gave you on the SD card that came with the printer. But that's cool. So this is kind of rare for me, But since I was trying to get an idea of how to print it, make a successful print, I just printed the example. But from this point on, it's going to be all my stuff, because I don't need to download 3D models to print. I'm quite capable of modeling myself, and that's what it's for. This isn't a hobby for me. This is the real thing, and so I'm going to be making useful things. And it's not just for me. All right, it's for the world. Yeah.